Right, well, this is me. I'll tell you the story as I go. I've got oligodendroglioma grade 2 in my right frontal lobe, growing into my temporal lobe. So my symptoms started in 2008. I was 13 years old. We went to the GP about 35 times, and it was like blamed on puberty and all sorts of different things as to why I was fainting and having these mood swings. Eventually, I was referred to Addenbrooke's Hospital to have further investigations. And on my first appointment, I went into the room, and he said he'd seen a scan from my previous hospital that I was at, which was Luton and Dunstable, and he said about all these different things. He was like, "I'm for your brain tumour, we need to see you upstairs." And I was like, "What do you mean for my brain tumour?" And then that's how I found out that I had a suspected glioma. And then I had an extra lump of bone on the back of my head that they removed to see whether that was causing seizures, and that actually had nothing to do with it. It was all this tumour. So I then went on to watch and wait. So I had scans every 6 months, and then they'd see what was going on. And my consultant at the time thought that my tumour was inoperable. So 2013, I turned 18, so changed consultant to see an adult oncologist. And then in 2014, they changed their opinion, believed that I could have surgery, and my craniotomy was booked for June. I had a surgeon flew over from Milan who was given a talk with my surgeon, and then he decided he wanted to be in on the operation. And my surgery was cancelled in June of 2014 because there was a lack of beds in the intensive care unit for after my surgery. So eventually my surgery was rescheduled for September 12th, and it took place. However, 3 weeks later, 6th of October, I was readmitted to hospital because I had an infection in my brain, which we believe came from the surgery. So I had an emergency craniectomy, so removal of this this section of my bone. And then it wasn't till 2015, November, the following year, that I had the metal plate put in. So I had a year of no skull here, just had my brain exposed. Well, and skin, obviously. So initially, what caused me to go to the GP was I had these severe headaches, and then I was blacking out. So to start with, it started with just fainting episodes, so we wondered if it was blood sugar. I even had my heart monitored for 7 days with a checker that I had to ring through to the hospital every time the alarm went off. And then I had these absent episodes where I'd just be talking and then I'd just stop and stare blankly. Convulsive seizures, we all know what they are. Like mood swings, which kind of not like what you'd expect in a young girl. It was a lot. All of a sudden, I'd go from being the happiest person in the world to smashing the house up, like with crazy aggression. And then I was being sick all the time, like mainly in the morning, and we wasn't sure why it was happening. So this is my tumour. Excuse the dodgy draw around it. I took this picture on Snapchat from the hospital, and I wanted to kind of point out to my friends because they were like, "What are we looking at?" It's like this. So my life between 2010 and 2014, my headaches were daily. They still generally are, but back then I was medicated with, I think I was on 250 milligrams of tramadol a day, which is quite a high dose, I believe, for a young girl. I was having between 1 and 20 seizures a week. I was still suffering with my angry outbursts. I started to suffer, especially after my craniotomy, from really severe depression because I felt like I couldn't do anything and become withdrawn from all my social groups. But I think that was more because I was worried how people would judge me because I felt I couldn't do things. And then the stress of it all, I started to lose my hair anyway. And then I felt like I looked like a stereotypical person who had a brain tumour. I was really sick a lot. I lost a lot of weight because I was just being sick all the time. And I fainted every day, if not several times a day. And then the focal seizures were getting worse, especially when I was trying to study for my GCSEs. I'd miss half of what my teacher was saying because I just had gone into a focal seizure and couldn't take anything in. So, the day of my cancelled surgery, I arrived at hospital 6 a.m, waited in the day ward all day, nil by mouth. At 5 o'clock, I was told that the surgery was cancelled because there wasn't a bed in intensive care. They thought there'd be a bed at about 7 o'clock in the evening, but because they expected my surgery to last 10 hours or so, the surgeon would have to go home and then come back to do his surgeries tomorrow. However, I was then kept in hospital because I hadn't eaten or drunk for the day. I had low blood pressure and dehydration. But then I was allowed home the following day. So yeah, after it was cancelled, I was really depressed because I felt like people kind of didn't understand. Because when I went home and said that the surgery was cancelled, a lot of people are like, well, it can't be that serious. And I was like, it's not that, it's that there wasn't a bed. So yeah, and then, right, when I had my surgery, this is me after my surgery. This is after I had my plate fitted. And this is my 21st birthday. I arrived at hospital 6 a.m. the day of my craniotomy. The surgery was at 9 a.m. and I was back in recovery late afternoon. It was 11 hours. I can't tell you anything that happened the 5 days afterwards. I have no idea. The only way I knew my mum come to visit was that a jacket I'd left at home was on the side. And I said to my nurse, where's my mum? And she was like, she left 2 days ago. And so I can't remember anything. And the sickness, it was terrible. So yeah, 6 days post-surgery I returned home, which was pretty quick. We expected it to be longer. But I was allergic to morphine, which was what took a lot of the recovery time because I was having a reaction to my morphine rather than healing. I was really sick. Like, the sickness was constant all day, every day when I got back from my surgery. I was fatigued and dizziness. Nothing was getting better over the next 2 weeks, but we now know that's because I had an infection. My GP assured me that it was a normal process, but then, I woke up one morning, there was a chunk of skin from my head here, and a yellow, I've put slime or pus, but to me it looked like custard. And it was just on my pillow, and my mum was like, Jen, I think we need to go to A&E. And then A&E told me that night to go home and then attend Addenbrooke's first thing in the morning, because my local hospital didn't have a neurology unit. So they were like, go home, go to Addenbrooke's in the morning, we'll ring them. And then went to A&E. Well, they told me it could be life-threatening, and they weren't sure what it was. So Mum's taken me home, and I'm panicking, so I haven't slept all night. And it's 5:30. I'm like, right, it's the next day, let's go to the hospital. So we got to Addenbrooke's the next day, swabbed the wound, took my bloods, and did all sorts of other doctor stuff that you guys probably know more about than I do. And then he called me into a side room off the day ward and told me if I didn't have my surgery at 8 p.m. that night, the infection was so far along that it could be fatal. And he thought that I was lucky if I hadn't gone on there, I probably would have only had 72 hours, 3 days still of that infection before it had become terrible. Obviously it was terrible at the time. And then took me into surgery. That was all successful. They cleaned the wound out, but they had to remove all the bone here because it was just so infected. And then this is what I looked like past the surgery. I had 6 weeks of meropenem. Yeah, meropenem antibiotic. I'm not really sure how you pronounce that. It's an antibiotic. My nurse described it as the domestos of antibiotics. So, and then I had a PICC line. But that was the scariest thing, having that put in, because when I was going down, the people on the ward were like, "Good luck," and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I was just crying. And then the lady who was putting my PICC line in was like, "If you don't trust me, then this is never going to get done." I was like, "How am I meant to trust you? I've just met you." It's just calm down. And then the worst bit was just numbing the area. It was actually all right. And then, the nurses on Ward D6 at Addenbrooke's, they trained me to make up my own drip bags. So then I could do my IV antibiotics at home myself. And my mum had to be trained as well. So I meant I could go home, have that all done, do that all at home rather than stay in hospital for the 6 weeks, because there's obviously someone else who needed that bed. And this quote is at the bottom from a diary. It says, "I looked in the mirror, I was shocked, and I looked disgusting. I've never been more ashamed of my appearance." Because I thought that this dip in my head was so obvious because I had no hair. I felt like I looked really deformed. But initially, although I was devastated at the appearance of my head following this surgery, I was aware before I went into the surgery there was a risk of him removing my bone flap. But then I didn't think that the skull held your head up, so I didn't realise it would look dipped in and that you'd physically be able to see. I just thought it would not be there, which I guess is my own naivety, being 19, having this surgery. When I went home, initially I didn't want to see my friends or my family. I remember my sister wanted to see me after I had my plate, once I had my bone taken out, sorry. And I was like, "No, don't let her in, because I look really weird." And Mum was like, "You're going to have to see her at some point, you live in the same house." It took a few weeks. It took a few weeks for me to get out seeing all my friends again, but everyone kind of, they all got used to it. Then after a few weeks, went to a Halloween party, and then using the dip I had in my head, I covered my face and around it, obviously where there's no stitches or anything, with fake blood to look like I'd been hit in the head. And then I covered my face in fake bruises, and I just put a 1950s dress on, and it was like I was from some sort of horror film back then. It's the easiest fancy dress ever. And then once it was fully healed, I fell asleep at a friend's house. And when I woke up, they'd put like crisps in the dip, and we're eating the crisps out my head. So there's a joke now that I'm their crisp bowl. And then Christmas, we figured out that if I rested a wine glass on my shoulder, it fitted the top of the glass fitted perfectly in the dip. So it was handy. So yeah, this is the stages I went through afterwards. So this top left-hand picture is me with no bone. Then this is the 2 pictures afterwards, and then this is what my head looks like now when I've got no hair. So I've gone from that very top picture to the picture underneath, and obviously this has grown this year, so well happy with that. So yeah, I started to suffer from like episodes of anxiety, episodes of depression. I couldn't sleep very well anymore, and when I did sleep, I had these terrible dreams. Because when I came out of my recovery, I could remember them like taking my tube out my throat. And I just remember not being able to breathe. And then eventually, through speaking to my Macmillan nurse and some counsellors and stuff through her, I was diagnosed with PTSD in 2016. Yeah, 2016. But I'm attending counselling sessions to improve my mental health at the minute, and we seem to be making a lot of progress. Yeah, January 2016, I was admitted to feeling. I had no feeling at hospital. I had no feeling in my left-hand side at all. I was in hospital for 4 days, and we had no idea what was causing these things. I had my brain scan, and there was like a black spot in it, and then it looked like I'd potentially had a bleed. We weren't really sure. We're still not sure to this day what it was, but there was a little pool of fluid. There still is a pool of fluid in this area of my brain that wasn't there before. It took 2 months and a lot of physiotherapy for me to be able to feel my left-hand side again. So I was in a wheelchair that I had to have other people push around until then, which is frustrating now because I don't know what caused that. And they were like, we don't know, because we don't know what's caused it, we don't know if you will be able to walk again. But I can. And then July this year, I'm trekking across Iceland to make money for the Brain Tumour charity. I've got £5,000 in sponsorship. Well, £315 off my £5,000 target in sponsorship so far. So yeah, day-to-day life now. I get headaches every day, medicated with tramadol, but at my own request, we've lowered the dose of tramadol because I didn't want to be on a high dose for a long time. I still have sleep disturbances, but they medicate that with amitriptyline. I still have seizures, not as many convulsive, mainly focal. I get numbness and tingling in my left-hand side, generally my arm, or like this area, like my chest and abdomen area. Still have some issues with my moods, not as bad as they were. Like I don't go from happy to full-on crazy so quick, but still get really down and weird for no reason. Every single day when I wake up, I'm sick, and it's just something that I think I have to live with forever. We've tried all sorts of anti-sickness, and it just doesn't seem to help that much. I still have anxious and depressive episodes, but they're far less common. I'm still fatigued, but with training for Iceland, I've really helped me start to get over that. And then sometimes I have occasional word processing issues. We were just speaking on this table about the other day. I asked my mum to put my dinner in the washing machine instead of the microwave. And then, so often I struggle to find the correct word for my sentence or muddle up the way around they go. But I haven't done that much in this, so it's not too bad. So yeah, my way of moving forward. 2015, I funded the Jennifer Amy Fund supporter group of the Brain Tumour charity. 2016, I started at Open University English Literature degree because I'd missed out on going to university because I had to have my surgery. Returned to work 2016 and wrote a book about my brain tumour journey, and all the proceeds went to the supporter group. And then this year, I've become a young ambassador for the charity and have raised £7,644.27 to date. The charity keep it nicely updated on their website for me. But yeah, these are all the people I just wanted to acknowledge. Gemma Bullen was my clinical specialist nurse at Addenbrooke's, and she was incredible. My consultant was Mr. Santarius. He was amazing. He was the one who was like, actually, yeah, we can operate on you. Mr. Garnett was my first consultant when I was a child, and he was the person who made the initial diagnosis. And Amanda Diper was my clinical specialist nurse at QA when I moved to Portsmouth for a bit. But she really made the difference by helping me, even things like helping me get a GP appointment. And then she helped me get into, because she was she worked for Macmillan as well. She helped me get into all my counselling and helped me that way. Because I think there was more for me getting better than just actually trying to cure the tumour. Because all these mental health issues came with it that I needed to get sorted. But every doctor and nurse I've had has been amazing in my care. After my first surgery, I think it was the ward sister on our break. Instead of taking a break, took me down. Adam Brooks have a food court. I don't know if any of you have been there or worked there. They have a food court. And they took me downstairs, and then at 4 a.m. I'm having chips, cheese and gravy, which is all I've been talking about since I come out of my surgery. And I was just like, I'm starving. And the doctor was like, I don't think you should be eating yet. And I was like, no, I'm starving, you need to feed me. So because 4 a.m. was the next day, she was like, I'll take you down. And at the support team at the Brain Tumour Charity, I can't tell you how many times I've rung the support line, just having a stress, about all sorts of stupid things, about how my appearance is different. Because I still have like a small dip in my head here that I was very conscious that everyone could see. But until I pointed it out, you probably couldn't see it. It's just where muscles bunch from the surgery underneath it, I'm informed. But I don't really know. So yeah, now, has anyone got any questions?